For my big question, I chose to share my opinion on a good society. So, what does make a good society? Government involvement, freedom, equality, civility? What about all of the above? In the dictionary, society is described as the aggregate of people living together in a more or less ordered community. But when you really process the definition, a society is so much more than that. As book evidence for my BQ, I found The Good Society. The Good Society is a college-written book of politics and understanding a society. As for movie or book evidence, the very popular movie The Hunger Games stars a girl named Katniss living in a future society. The society is mostly based on the fact that the government gets too much power and force people into fighting for food where they have no power and no freedom. This is a prime example of how much just a few elements can so drastically affect the difference between a good and bad society. Moving into another example is another movie, The Maze Runner, based on a book. The Maze Runner is shown as a society of teenage boys, and eventually one girl, living together and working together to figure out the maze surrounding them that they can only escape by working together and surviving the government's tests to see what they may handle together as a group. The less they work together, the longer they are trapped in the maze trying to stay alive. In this book and movie, it shows how the government can influence a society in a negative way by having far too much power. As for another piece of evidence, the ABC Family Entertainment movie Cyberbully follows a young girl named Taylor Hillridge living in a town, going to school, but not quite often allowed on the internet until her 17th birthday. She joins a popular site for her school, and things quite quickly go very wrong. The equality of her to her classmates is shattered when the school starts bullying her online. After attempted suicide, her mother goes to the governor and asks for something to be done about the cyberbullies, but they do nothing because there's no law against it. The teen eventually retaliates against the group of bullies, making everyone enthusiastic to the thought of going online again, and they eventually got the state to pass a law against the bullying of minors online. Government used their power to help others in the state because of their power to do so, and the equality began to be restored at the school, showing that being equal has very positive effects to a society. In related evidence, there's evidence in real life that is a prime example of how civility and equality come into play in a society. Many people had heard about the Baltimore riots, but in depth, equality and civility had a large part influencing what happened. Meaning, if people had seen it as equal for races and hadn't seen it as unequal discrimination against African Americans, the civility of the community would have remained civil and the same. Lastly, as my evidence goes, music has given a meaning to a good society. The 2004 song playing in the background, Everyone Cared, written and performed by Chad Kroeger and Nickelback, talks about how if people were better to each other, how the world would be a better society to be living in. For example, the lines, "If everyone cared and nobody cried, if everyone loved and nobody lied, and if everyone shared and swallowed their pride, we'd see the day that nobody died," all talk about the difference people living in one society can make a society good by the way they treat and equalize each other. So, in conclusion, the answer is yes. Government involvement, freedom, equality, and civility all play major roles in our society.